This is NDTV. And you're watching NDTV Prime.
Hello and welcome to a very special edition of Heads Up. The focus in recent weeks has months been on the state of jobs. It's been a young, restless India and all that it wants to do. The economy, growth, and is job creation, or should it be the government's top priority? This is some of the conversation that we've been hearing for quite some time now. But just let us understand from someone who perhaps knows it better than the rest of us. Joining me now, Ram Krishnamurthy, business head for Times Job. Thanks very much, Mr. Krishnamurthy, for taking our time to speak to us. Now, we've just seen what's happened at Davos, which is, again, the focus globally has been on employment, about jobs, about futures, and, you know, what sort of age that we are heading to as far as employment is concerned. If I were to ask you that as far as India is concerned, what is the employment scene looking at? How much of what we are reading, which is confusing most of us, I mean, is it great? Are we on track? Or is doomsday as far as jobs concerned around the corner? Where does the truth lie?
Yeah, so the truth lies between both, right? It's not a doomsday, right? And the growth hasn't been great as well, because job creation typically follows the GDP growth. Right? So the last 5 years, I think, 2 years before demonetization, there was good GDP growth. But last 2 years, we haven't grown so well, right? But that said, we expect good growth to come in the next 2 to 3 years, when typically we'll have effects of GST coming into shape, right? But over the last 2 years, like 16, 17, 17, 18, there's been good job growth, especially in certain sectors like banking, right? Certain segments in telecom, right? Consulting, IT, technology-enabled services. So there has been growth, decent growth. And I see the outlook also being good, right? So we typically how we look at things is, we have this portal where we have a lot of jobs getting posted, right? So depending on the sectors where we have more number of job postings, we base our research on, right? So we've seen a blip in BFSI, we've seen a high in, we used to see a high in construction 3 to 4 years back. We don't see high in construction anymore, right? But that said, telecom, especially after the Geo revolution, some segments of telecom, especially in the high-tech side, we see a high, right? We see a high in consulting, right? Niche jobs, right? So there is decent growth. Right, and I feel maybe 2 years from now we'll go back to the way we were growing the last 3 to 4 years before, right? Okay, so
that's optimistic and good to know as well. But for all those who are watching and want to know that, while no one can predict what the jobs of tomorrow will be like, it's often said that we really have no clue on what they will be. So what can people really do to arm themselves with the skill sets that will really never go out of vogue or will always be in demand? What are those skill sets?
Yeah, see, the first and foremost, typically people ask a lot of these questions on the side as well for us. Now, on one hand, you need functional skills. So if you want a career in IT, you would want to know the programming languages, you typically want to know the systems, right? But apart from that, you would also need to know how to present before clients, right? You should have some interpersonal skills, some basic aptitude, some communication skills. That's where a lot of Indians actually, because of our education system, we lack, right? So that's so non-functional skills or interpersonal skills is just one big set, which is a common across all jobs, right? So in terms of the functional skills, I think we have to chase the industry which is in fact creating jobs. Right? Today, if we look at jobs really getting done or created, especially if I look at the IT industry, then if someone is looking for a good job, you have to be aware of the latest tech, right? Artificial intelligence, for example, is the latest buzzword, right? A lot of new projects coming in artificial intelligence. So you need to know about those technologies. You need to equip yourself in machine learning technologies. You have to really be abreast See, I'm myself a technologist, so when the kind of code we used to write 20 years ago, now all those things are gone, right? Though some of the basics you still carry on, but we used to write really basic C code, right? Those days, machine level code and all. Now it's all about abstract coding. It's all about AI. Can you really create awesome libraries which you can reuse across different components, right? It's about deep learning. It's about data analytics. Can you make sense? Do you know how to make sense of a lot of data, right? So some of these things you have to be abreast if you're looking at a typical IT role. IT typically has been the forefront, right, in terms of job creation.
But it has sort of slipped from that pedestal, wouldn't you agree? I mean, last year was the year of big headlines on layoffs at from Infosys to Cognizant, and those was, Tech Mahindra, and those created big headlines. So, is it time to sort of shift focus from IT, which has, done a great service as well, but is it time for India to start focusing on other sectors, you think, or?
No, I'll tend to disagree with you.
Okay.
Of course, there have been layoffs, people were asked to move on, right? But companies have grown, right? They have,
I see.
In fact, on one hand, they've grown in terms of business they did, right? Plus, they've also upskilled their workforce.
I
right?
see.
So companies typically would have asked certain segments of employees in India to move on, but they would have hired people in US, in Europe.
I see.
So it's all about, as a leader of business, you typically look at, do you have the people to deliver business results for you? Right?
Correct.
So if, for example, if I'm an IT company, I get a good project in, say, maybe I'm helping, say, space tech with NASA, then do I have people with me who can actually do that work for me?
I see.
Right? So I think what the people who've been typically asked to go in India are people who've kind of lagged behind technology, right? So people who've been doing maintenance projects, who've been doing testing projects for a long time, haven't really upskilled themselves, right? So they've been let go of, right? Which is, I think, it's common across all industries, across all countries, right? So but in terms of real job creation, right? Job creation has been led by startups. A lot of startups have in fact created a lot of good jobs, right? There, people who've, in fact, to give an example, a lot of people who moved out of companies like Wipro, Infosys, and Cognizant, some of them who were good, right?
I see.
And had some money to invest, have started their own companies as well, right?
Okay.
But startups, typically what happens, since startups in India is more about high tech, right? It will not, unless you have Flipkarts and the Snapdeals of the world hiring a lot of delivery boys, typically startups, the focus is to create really awesome tech with less number of people. Right?
Absolutely.
So startup creates IP rather than creating more number of jobs, right? So there has been growth, there has been good work done, right? But of course, as I said earlier, in this global world, and then where tech is really disrupting all industries,
absolutely, yeah.
People have to upskill. If people don't upskill, of course they lag behind.
And that was actually going to be my next question to you. That, there's one thing about what skills should you really have, the basic skills that you need, besides going after what you want your niche to be. And for those who are mid-level or getting to mid-level, how significant is it to keep your eye on the ball, to be abreast with what's happening, all the changes? I mean, we're going into hyper-digital age and all of that. So would you say that managers also constantly need to sort of stay on the ball? And are we doing that?
Yes, we all need to, right? But are we doing enough? I don't think so, right? So people, I'll tell you what happens in a typical firm, especially people who've worked for 3-4 years, have gotten into management roles, they get relaxed. Right? Now the work gets done by the people who are below them, right? And so, but typically what happens, they focus on people management, some of those skills, right?
Yeah.
Of course, these skills are transferable across industries.
Sure.
But given the population we have in India, right? So there are there's a lot of people, right?
Yeah.
So you get heavy competition there, right? But actually, in this fast internet world, right, information is a click away, right? Of course, I'm sure NDTV also have so many programs around tech, right? But how many people actually go? Yeah, how many people actually go and watch those programs, right?
True.
You have this unique show on gadgets, but who all, if you go and talk, do a simple survey in a company and ask people how many of you, people know about the latest gadgets, people won't do so well.
Correct.
So people have to be aware, right? A lot of companies, in fact, the Ubers of the world, the Googles of the world, they run a fantastic, blog around their engineering, right? If you can check engineering.uber.com, engineering.linkedin.com, and there what happens, the engineers who are really at the bleeding edge of technology, right, they talk about what next they are doing, right? What next they are into. So people who actually want right, who are typically in not so value-adding jobs in India, who are looking at, keeping abreast of the latest tech, right? They should research, they should be on the net. So typically, out of 8 hours people spend in office, 3 to 4 hours you have to spend in upgrading yourself, in reading new, right?
Okay.
So people who do that actually excel. Right.
So companies also then need to be on board on this. I mean, it's not just for the individual, right? It's also for the organization.
Yes.
That this is sort of a great factor.
Yeah. So I'll tell you, over the last 7-8 years, people used to talk about innovation. It's not about innovation anymore. It's about disruption. Right?
That's right.
So you might be running a fantastic company, great revenues, giving great returns to your shareholders, but in 2 to 3 years, you might be extinct. Because someone would have come and just moved the market out of you, right? So companies need to take care of that. And companies are doing that as well, right? So the way hiring has happened, right, or typically has been happening over the past few years. Now we run a job portal, so a lot of hiring used to happen through job portals. You come, you list, right? But today, people are not hiring through portals, right? That's a grave reality even I see, right? People hire through skilled communities. People typically go and create some kind of code challenges, right? And they have, they bring people together, giving them a nice challenge to solve, right? In fact, they have ideathons where, you have a business problem, they want people to come and give good solutions, and then they hire the best out of it, right? So that's how hiring is changed, right? And it's going to go in the future as well, right? So from a candidate perspective, right, you need to be really abreast in terms of the latest skills. From a corporate perspective, of course, that realization is already in, right?
That's right.
A lot of top companies, the Infosys of the world, the TCSs, the Cognizants, right? They all are focusing on hiring the right client. Hiring the right, talent.
I see.
And then it works very well for them, because when they go and pitch in for a good project abroad, the questions which they typically get asked is, right, why should we give this project to you, and why should we give it to an IBM?
Right.
Now they come back and say, see, I have a fantastic talent pipeline.
I see.
I take care of engaging them.
Okay.
I upskill them this way. Right.
Right.
So it works well for them from a business perspective as well, right? But that's the future. And I really see the next 3 to 4 years. In fact, I see a lot of traction now. See, low-end hiring will typically happen. You don't even need a portal. You can just put a listing and, there are hundreds of people coming and applying to you.
Correct.
But really good, if you really want good people to work for you, you have to really, go and look at platforms where you give them some challenges, right?
I see.
And then people participate.
Interesting. Okay. I want to just bring this back to the state of education in India. Now, we are headed towards a system, at least in the north, where it's 100% or nothing. You're expected to max everything to get into the best institutions. There are loads of bright, young Indians who are sort of getting left out of this entire race. What would you say to them? How can they ensure that they get the skills? And what a sad comment is it on education? Because we are a young country. We're going to be the world's youngest country in some 2-3 odd years. So is there a serious concern that there'll be vast numbers of young Indians who'll be left out, for whom these opportunities will not present themselves?
I think on one hand, given that we have this young population, right? See, our education institutions are not bad. So we
don't have enough.
We don't have. So in terms of skills,
quality education, right.
So of course, we should have around 45,000 colleges, right? And then, of course, if you look at the IITs and the IIMs, and you have very few of them, right? But our age is a good thing with us, right? So if we are young, we all can work hard, right? A good example is Dhirubhai. Right? You don't need education to really succeed, right? If you can run a business yourself, in fact, in terms of, you can create employment rather than going and getting employed somewhere, right? So that's a kind of attitude, that's a kind of self-confidence we all need to have. So that self-confidence typically comes. So an education institute, you go to a college and people can talk about giving you functional skills, right? As I initially mentioned, there is more, right, than functional skills. If people are called upon, they are told. If people are encouraged to take risks in India, I think one of the biggest challenges which we have, in fact, our own generation, we are not encouraged to take risks.
That's right.
Abroad, you can take risks. If you fail, it's okay.
Exactly.
Right? In fact,
that's why I think our entrepreneurs are sort of changing the dynamics, because, they're risk takers, and for them failure is not a bad word, because in India still the pink slip is a huge deal. It creates, people think that they've got, it's stigma.
I think as a society we need to, the good thing, as you rightly said, when we have a young population, when you are young, you can take risks, right? When you have a family, right? So typically your risk appetite goes down.
Yeah.
But the good thing is, when a lot of people of us, right, among us are young, take risks, right? People should explore new stuff, right? It's just not about going to a college, taking a course of your kind and getting something. It's not about degrees anymore. People who are running awesome companies, who've run great companies, don't have degrees. People have to understand this.
I see.
Right?
Okay. So I think those are more role models that we need to put out, because
people, correct. A Bill Gates in America. So people typically look at skills there, right? People don't look at degrees. Bill Gates, actually, he jumped out of college, right? He didn't finish his course, right? The same with Steve Jobs. None of these big guys, but they all had self-confidence. They all tried new things, and they themselves did not take failure as a stigma. Facebook typically says that if you want to fail, but fail fast.
Yeah.
So that's the thing we need to inculcate in our behaviors, right? Parents really need to encourage children to take risks. We are all too supportive and too protective. You shouldn't do these things. Go to school, come back. Are you reading what you see in the books? No. Do we encourage people to look at interesting science projects? There's so many things coming out here. So, and then do we want to really, typecast people as engineers or doctors? Why can't we look at other professions?
That's right. Yeah.
You have,
But are we moving away from that, from engineering or medicine? You think that we are exploring other options?
People will have to. I think, as you rightly said, when you have dearth of opportunities in the other spaces, right? People will have to. So that's the whole concept of disruption. When you really see, all these big companies have all been started in garages. Right?
Correct.
When you can't do anything, you have to innovate, right?
Yeah, true.
You have to innovate. So if I am an individual, I have done my degree, I am not getting a job, right? I am having pressure. I will do something different, right? So I think we all have to get into that mode, and I fundamentally feel, given that we have such young population, I typically look at people not from hands, but we have so many brains as well, right? If we were talking about 1.3 billion people, and then maybe 100 million new folks coming and joining the workforce, that kind of brains we all have, right? So people can do wonders. Right? They have to believe in themselves, and as a society, I think we have to accept. We have to accept failures, right?
That's very important. We just have to learn to accept failure, both the generations above us and our generation, those coming after us.